That was a good thumbnail. Let's see. Just getting comfy. Um, Starting this broadcast about 30 minutes early tonight. Um, and we'll wait to get to the main topic that's in the title until some people get in here and we can have a chat, especially because it's a political one. And when I'm not talking politics, you guys, you love to make me talk politics. Yes, love letters, Chris, love letters. But before we get to that, I'll just say that some of the rabbit holes I've gone down today on the internet have been kind of strange. One was that after watching a couple videos by Miles Power in the background about uh, the quackery of chiropractic science, uh, I decided to see if they were licensed by Colorado, just like other licensed professions. And in fact, they are. And they're not the only thing. And so there's straight up chiropractors, there's electrotherapy chiropractors, and then there's acupuncturist chiropractors. And then there's just straight up acupuncturists, which have their own board that is separate from the chiropractor acupuncturists. So, yeah, lots of woo that the state is basically endorsing by allowing them to have a state board. But, how rampant would the malpractices be if chiropractors didn't have a board, you know? And then I saw that there's an actual license in the state of Colorado for naturopathic doctor. And I was like, the what? Somebody who's allowed to use the title doctor as their title in our state, and they believe in holistic medicine. And yeah, I just I need to dig deeper into this, but I'm sure it's going to be interesting. The other rabbit hole that I went down is completely separate from that. Is that the Coors uh, company, which it's from Golden, just you know I'm pointing to it. It's west of Denver. Um, they decided to pay for the adoption fees of adopted pets. And it was a week before and after Valentine's Day. But there were some states that they were unwilling to pay for pet adoptions in. And so at first it looked like it was just one certain state. And then I found out that it was actually quite a few states that they would not pay for the adoptions in. And apparently it has to do with advertising laws, that they were afraid that they get sued because, you know, alcohol companies can't do certain types of ads, and different states have different regulations on that. And giving away uh, the fee that somebody would have had to pay to adopt a dog can be considered kind of a promotion of alcohol when it's a beer company that's doing it. So um, they decided to not run afoul of the laws of states that are stricter about alcohol advertisements. So that's why I originally I was looking into it because I was like, wait, did Adolf Coors hate Pennsylvania that much that he would have them like written out of his will of like ever the company ever doing anything good? to that state. That's what I was thinking. But no, it was just the state laws in different states about alcohol advertising that it came down to. So it wasn't anything juicy when I investigated that little tidbit of information. Why? Because I'm an addiction counselor, and I have heard from a couple people, over the course of this month that Coors isn't all that bad. Chris, if you have a question, don't ask me if you can ask a question because then you've already asked a question. It's like question inception. Go ahead and ask your question, Chris. Typity, typity. If we have socialism, do I have to work? Um, so if we had a universal basic income like Andrew Yang was proposing, you would get a free $1,000 per month. And if you were to be able to live subsistence style on $1,000 a month, then I suppose you wouldn't have to work. Now, you could at that level, if you had no job, you'd fall under the guidelines of being able to get food stamps and Medicaid. So you'd have your health insurance and you'd have another $250 for food every month. So knock that up to about 1250, right? And you'd have to have roommates, I'd imagine, because a one bedroom apartment in Denver is more than $1,000. So I'm betting you have roommates. Um, and you're correct that landlords and certain other services would raise the rates that they're charging. So you can't really base it on the rates that we see right now because if everybody got $1,000 free, there would be a little bit of inflation, especially in certain markets right away. In certain sectors of the market, they would be the first to test out whether or not they could get uh, more money because of the supply of money being larger on the buyer side. So, yeah, and food prices could go up too. You know, they could. They might settle down and go right back to where they were. There might be, if we're talking socialism, there might be price regulations like they have in some cities, like say San Francisco, where they're not allowed to raise their rents higher than a certain percentage more each year. You know, and they can cap the way rates raise legally if we have like what you're saying socialism like hardcore. But yeah, I think it would uh, free a certain type of person up from working. Now, let's say you have a family and there were working people in that family, and you decided to take the just living off the UBI route. If they were willing to support you and enable you, you could be a basement dweller or just a one room dweller with your family just playing Xbox for the rest of your fucking life. That could be a thing. Now, um, as an addiction counselor, I have seen where completely homeless people who uh, subsist on flying a sign and getting a couple dollars every day and then spending that on vodka and then eating free food 3 meals a day at shelters. I've seen these people have their lives turned upside down when they finally get Social Security, either through a disability petition or through them just aging into it, right? And there are some of them who then the only thing that doesn't change about their lives is the is like the drinking's still there, the homelessness is still there, everything else is still there except for flying a sign. You don't see them holding the cardboard that says, uh, uh, praise God, please help, because they don't have to anymore. And so they'll use that money to drink on, and they'll still drink the same cheap shit, and they'll just spread out the money so that they can keep drinking the same cheap shit every day. You know, there is that kind of person who, when you enable them with that uh, steady cash every month, they will turn into that. They will even supply other people, friends. They'll pass around their bottles. So it's not always a good thing. I'm describing the nightmare that Republicans have about UBI or socialism or whatever you want to call it. But I think what we're headed towards is not complete socialism, and it's not nightmare scenario socialism. It's just a few aspects of socialism, you know, like the libraries we have, the police force we have, the fire department, and all that. The good socialism, the public education that we all get for free, as a minimum. Your parents could pay for more, but, at a minimum, you get free public education all the way through high school, you know. But there's those kind of, socialist programs that we're talking about. We're just going to add a couple more, right? But it will, each one of those things, change the landscape of our society. Damn Skippy, you know. Um, there's room to grow, there's room to improve, and there's also the possibility that some people will do the wrong thing. For example, um, I'm definitely a person who has gone to school for things that he does not do anymore. You know, I'm a journeyman wireman, and aside from my bachelor's degree in psychology, I also have a bachelor's degree in English, right? And I got federal subsidies for that kind of stuff. I used my GI Bill to pay for those degrees. I got reimbursements from the company I was working for to get those degrees, and one of them I'm not even using at all, really. You know, you might see some correct punctuation on my tweets, but am I using that English degree to uh, work with it? No, I'm not. I'm not. And there, if you had free education for everyone, I think you would get a lot more underwater basket weaving degrees. You'd get, you know, aligning chakras degrees, Reiki, acupuncturists, chiropractors. You get people who just don't want to do the rigorous work, but want to have, you know, all sorts of titles. Um, and you'd have a lot less people looking to tie their education to their vocation. Because if school's free, I'll just fucking take everything, right? I'll be a PhD like four fucking times, but not a one of them will be anything that makes anyone any money or does anything good for society, you know? Read, PhD in philosophy, you know? Now, we do have to have a few of them, but if every other person went for a PhD in philosophy, we'd be kind of fucked if we were footing the bill for that shit. You know, you can read about philosophy all you want in the library, but if we've already got, a good number of PhDs in philosophy, we don't need any more paid for by tax funds, in my opinion. But um, for the degrees that might lead to better employment, I'm all for the socialist version of free education for everyone. But for the degrees that we as the taxpayers do not see as a benefit at all, to our society, or we're not unanimously there, you know. Yeah, like Chris is saying, maths and sciences, all the STEM fields, go ahead and pay for those degrees. We need more of those. But if somebody wants to work outside the STEM fields, uh, with I don't know, forestry retreats for drum circles, mm, I think we could do without paying for the degree for that. You know, they can maybe shell out a little bit for the degree for by themselves, but yeah, there's a lot of shit that we're gonna have to work out if we're gonna add a little socialism to everything, like Salt Bay. You know, since I think we're at peak people with two or three people. I don't know. It's what, Friday night. I can guess where people are. Before I start on the main topic, 17 minutes in, I will say that I wonder if, just like the drop in the uh, stock exchanges from the fear of the coronavirus, if coronavirus fears might suppress voter turnout in primaries on, say, the South Carolina primary and the Super Tuesday primaries. Because here's the thing: if they are suppressed, then everybody who votes with a mail-in ballot and votes early is going to have already voted, and so the suppression only happens like at the in-person place, and that favors one candidate, uh, Bernie Sanders. Um, Hell, Mike Bloomberg wasn't even in the first couple of races, not even uh, making a go at Iowa. So, like, he's already behind, and now he's trying to spend a bajillion dollars trying to wow people. But if the people he's trying to wow may have already voted, like me, then all the money that he's paying to reach them isn't going to do jack shit. And the people who he is reaching who haven't voted yet might be too afraid to go to a place where there's a lot of other people that could be coughing and then touch a machine that a whole bunch of other people have touched before that day, because they might be afraid of, that 2 to 4% of people who are dying from the coronavirus. Um, and especially that affects older people who, that's Bloomberg's demographic, because the young people are going for Bernie, you know. Anyways, I'm going to give you an example of how how crazy Bloomberg's uh, message is. That he's sending out these mailers to people who, like me, have already voted, already showed you guys my ballot, right? So He's spending money on these well-produced, shiny, ads that come in the mail. I've already taken the liberty of blocking out all the addresses on these. So, I'm not doxing myself at all, but um, here it says he beat the NRA, he beat the coal lobby, he beat big tobacco. These two would be trying to sway Bernie voters that he does the same things that Bernie does. And then this one, that's actually tailored to the attacks that Bernie 5 times didn't vote for the Brady bill because Bernie was representing his constituents who uh, in Vermont like their guns, right? So he was uh, at that one point on that one issue, he was uh, instead of doing things by his own conscience, he was actually just representing his people because he probably wouldn't have his seat if he had voted for the Brady bill. But anyways, this Mike 2020 thing, I really like this because half of it's blue and half of it's red. It's like he's illustrating how he used to be a Republican, now he's a Democrat, and could work both ways. I get the symbolism in it. Plus, my name's Mike too, so I like it. Anyways, yeah, um, well produced. I'm impressed by the quality. I even held this up for the thumbnail to this video, right? And it was a really good thumbnail, just like, right? You could read it, you know, but too late. I've already made my decision, and now you're going to send this to me? We have early voting, bitch. Okay, so this is going to get ridiculous, by the way, because he sent me a lot of love letters. So this one, it says, we've lit too many candles, mourned too many loved ones. That's why I took the fight straight to the NRA, and we're winning. So he's got these uh, candles on the front, right? But then it opens up like this. Mike 2020. Mike will get it done. It's a whole huge. It's like a centerfold. He's mailing out centerfolds. Okay, that's not cheap. The the production quality that has gone into this. Okay, so in this one, he got somebody whose child was gunned down in the Aurora shooting, right? And he got them to say that he wants Mike Bloomberg because Mike Bloomberg is going to fight the NRA. So he got an Aurora shooting victim's father to endorse him, and then he made this nice spread, and he's really really pounding on the message of I'll fight the NRA, I'll fight the NRA, because that's Bernie's weak point, right? That's the one point that maybe liberals don't agree with Bernie on because he didn't vote all the time for gun reform. He did vote for it sometimes, not all the time, right? Um, so yeah, here's that same dad of the Aurora shooting victims, right there, and there's Mike Bloomberg, and they're on stage together because he did something with him. But this was made really quickly, and a lot of money was went into this, and a lot of money was spent on mailing this to us, and you know, everyone on our street got one. But it's shiny, it's glossy, it's good quality paper, and it's too late because everybody already voted. What else do we have? Okay, this one's interesting. We want And it was like kind of gummy glued together. We want, we want, we want Mike 2020. It's it's awesome. It's like origami. It's it has all these different messages with quality health care and world-class schools and climate action and gun safety, of course. That's going to be him. He's going to be barking that uh, the entire race because that's the one Achilles heel of Bernie, you know. But yeah, high quality ad. Too late. I mean, this guy's got too much money to spend. But we've already voted. Got this one. I saved this. I didn't even open it. Let's see what it is. Da-da. He's sending this kind of mail too. Love letters, love letters, love letters. All right. So it's like my Peter Popoff mail video. From the desk of Mike Bloomberg. I'm pretty sure he didn't actually sign it. As three-term mayor of the biggest and one of the most diverse cities in the country, I know how to get things done. After 9/11, I was proud to help rebuild New York City. Blah, blah, blah. He invoked 9/11. That's almost like when people call other people Nazis. You say 9/11, and I just, my mind goes blank. Um, anyways, if we're going to beat Trump, we have to do it right. That's why I never have and never will take a dime from special interests. All right. All right. But I'm just going to say, with how much money he's got, sending letters like this and all that, doesn't he count as a special interest himself? I mean, like, he is his own special interest. Last one, guys, right? Um, this is this is the cream of the crop here. Drought, devastating fires, destroying public lands. Trump's politics are killing Colorado, right? And then, it's, vote for Mike Bloomberg and all the reasons why. We need bold action on climate. Here's what I want to say about this. If you're that worried about the environment, why the fuck are you cutting down all these trees and printing on all this paper and mailing out all these pointless ads to people who have already voted and just like mailing to everyone in case they haven't voted yet? This is not climate friendly. This right here. This is quality cardstock too. This is like got some chemical processes on it and everything. What the fuck are you trying to pull? These devastating fires and drought and everything. Part of that is because of deforestation for paper, for fucking mailers, all these fucking mailers. Anyways, yeah, Nadia says top quality flappy paper. Yeah, this is almost a ASMR video. Anyways, yeah, for the record, of all of the candidates in the primary, the only person to send me mailers like that who's running for president is Michael Bloomberg. The only other candidates for anything that have sent me any mail have only sent me one piece of mail, and it has not been the quality that Mike Bloomberg has been sending, right? It's like more envelope style shit, right? It is amazing how much money this man can throw at a trash can. It's amazing how much paper can be generated for a guy that doesn't really have a chance to win. You know, it's amazing. Um, that being said, I have gotten maybe two texts from people wanting me to support Michael Bloomberg, and uh, I got a couple from Elizabeth Warren, and I got a couple from Buttigieg, and I got a bajillion of them from Bernie Sanders, all from the same number. And I've already made a video about that with screen share, and that's previously on my channel. And I continue to get them. But I would much rather see somebody wage like digital campaigns, and waste my text space than keep cutting down trees and then saying that you are the climate candidate. That is some fucking bullshit right there. So, yeah. Let's go to the comments. I got backed up for a second there. And let's see where we are. Poseidon Kicklidon says, aren't there better ways to settle or to waste a billion bucks? I think he said he was willing to spend the full billion. And even if he did, he'd still have money to blow, you know. Um, Flapjack Batter says people like Bieberg don't know how far removed they are. Obviously, obviously. Uh, Poseidon Kicklodon says, have you looked into creating an aspen forest in your backyard yet? No. And let me tell you why. Aspen trees grow at a certain altitude naturally. They don't grow well when you take them from the mountains and bring them down to the plains. Denver is a mile high, around 5,280 feet, and aspen trees grow best in a range between around 6,000 and 8,000 feet. If I'm correct, I might be a little off with that, but from what I see going up in the mountains, um, everywhere in Denver, pretty much the Denver metro area is a little bit lower than where aspen trees like to grow. So, no. Um, I mean, I could try, but there are other trees that would grow easier than that. Uh, Chris says, yeah, I want Bloomberg's money. Yeah. If he were giving out just like free money like Andrew Yang, um, maybe he'd have better chance, you know. For all the money that he spent in getting that to me, I bet you he could have just cut everyone on this block like $10, $20 check and said, "Hey, cash this and vote for me." He could be buying votes and it would work better, Chris says, why does he want to fight the NRA? What's that solving? Hold on a second. He says he took on the NRA and was and now it's nearly bankrupt. He says, oh, here he goes, right here. He says he wants to pass more effective background checks. He wants to close loopholes to keep guns out of the wrong hands. And if his history with what it means to be a person with the wrong hands is any indicator, he's probably going to bring about stop and frisk again in some other uh, name but the same game, you know, where the wrong hands means if you're brown, you don't get a gun. And then ban assault weapons. Assault weapons, which it's weird because those are like the cosmetic features on a gun. You know, assault. You know, you could take the same gun and take off the certain grips and the certain uh, flash suppressor and all that that are just like cosmetic additives and just like it's a gun. You know, when I see ban assault weapons, what I actually see is somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about when they're talking about guns. If you're saying semi-automatic weapons, then you're probably going to add handguns in on that. Um, Semi-automatic rifles, maybe that's a better term. But if you want the gun nut perspective on this, go ahead and watch Robert Wallace, formerly known as Hatred 42. But yeah, banning assault weapons is meaningless to me. High capacity magazines, maybe, is that what he's talking about? I don't know. If he's uh, if he's got somebody whose son died in the Aurora shooting, then maybe. Um, yeah. And the last thing is tackle gun violence in the hardest hit communities. If you're actually doing that, if you're actually going to tackle gun violence in the hardest hit communities, you're going to take handguns away from black people in urban settings. Exactly what he was doing with stop and frisk. That's Mike Bloomberg. Look up the FBI statistics on it, and you'll see that the one gun that creates the most murders is a handgun, not a not an assault rifle. You know, um, let's see. Poseidon Kicklodon says nobody here but us vampires and insomniacs. Yeah, and tell Bloomberg to ban his own private armed security. What a total hypocrite. You know, um, I don't see it as being hypocritical when he's not part of the hardest hit communities or uh, a member of the club of the wrong hands. You know, wrong as in brown. So unless he's got some black people on his security team, he's not being hypocritical. What's the next one? I am Godard says, FYI, quarantine conditions are going to roll across the U.S. for the coronavirus. Be sure to visit ready.gov. Um, Yeah, and just like I had to uh, turn my group into a grief group this past week when one of my clients passed away, I am not looking forward to a 2 to 4% uh, death rate of something that spreads around the speed of the swine flu. You know, this is this is going to be brutal, and for people my age and under, it's not actually that dangerous. You know, it's the young and the elderly, just like every other virus. It targets them more, but overall, it's a 2 to 4% death rate. But you know, people who are young and healthy have a better chance. You know, and so I don't know. It's I just have a feeling that I'm going to be consoling a lot of people with some random ass fucking deaths happening all over my fucking city. Poseidon wants to know if this is the beginning of 12 Monkeys because there's eerie similarities. Um, that was a good movie. Good monkey. Um, Chris says, can't a criminal just find a way to get an assault weapon? Um, there was a joke saying that it ends up on bumper stickers at like gun shows. And it says if you uh, make guns a crime, then only criminals will have them. And that kind of logic, uh, it's you know kind of true. You know, it illustrates the point of uh, the people who want to get one are going to get one. You know, your paper ban when you sign it into legislation will not keep people from smuggling it in, especially when these weapons are prevalent all over the world as the tools of the trade of warlords. How are you going to ban an AK-47 worldwide so that no one can ever get their hands on it, or send themselves pieces of it in the mail, or hell, 3D print one, you know? Kevin Smart says, often people who commit massacres are loners who wouldn't be able to get a hold of a top weapon. You know, um, I think the most dangerous weapon I've seen that I actually wanted banned as soon as I saw it is actually on the Rocky Mountain Gun Owners YouTube channel, RMGO, and they have a basically a cannon that you can pull around with a truck. It's like a 50 millimeter, just big fucking cannon. And I'm like, who the fuck needs a fucking cannon? An anti fucking tank cannon, you know? Uh, anyways, Cody wants to know what's my opinion on Infowars. Um, I believe most of the stuff that happens on the Alex Jones Infowars uh, show looks like entertainment to me, but it has a very big following of people who actually believe it. Um, and there were a few people that I met along the way in the Republican Party while I was a delegate coming out of Colorado Springs, just trying to be a spoiler and try to, be effective from within. Um, that treated Infowars as like something that you must watch every day, you know, and a lot of them were Ron Paul supporters. and it was kind of scary. Jamie wants to know, really, an ad for a live stream? Um, if it got you to say something other than uh, Islam is the religion of peace, then yeah, I'll put an ad on live stream. I didn't actually click anything to add the ad to the live stream. I just started this up on my phone. This is my phone. This is my phone. You know, there you don't get a lot of options when you start it up. You know, it's probably some default that I set. Um, let's see. Chris wants data and sources from Kevin when Kevin's making a general statement um, about gun violence enactors being loners who are losers in their parents' basement in their underwear eating Cheetos playing World of Warcraft, and then one day they snap and decide to kill real people instead of, I don't know, the people that would have owned them on Call of Duty. Um, yeah. Let's see. Jamie says, have you ever heard of reverse lag? Like you see my post before I post it and respond, and then I post. There is an element of time travel there. Um, or you've been posting the same goddamn thing every freaking live stream I do. It's hard to think in terms of YouTube censorship sometimes. It takes effort to not, run afoul of YouTube's adpocalypse. You bring it out of me. Anyways, Kevin says, I stopped watching InfoWars when he went all pro Trump. It was less entertaining. Um, Alex Jones's show, which is not on YouTube anymore, and President Trump's Twitter, and a couple other things in this world are things that I don't go out and look for, but the things that I watch like to bring them up. So whether or not I'm subscribed or follow the president's Twitter, I'm going to hear about it when the president's Twitter says something batshit crazy, right? Um, the last thing I heard about his Twitter was that he misspelled the word choker, and he spelled chalker when describing Elizabeth Warren. He called her a chalker instead of a choker. I don't fucking look at his Twitter account ever, but you know, his tweets fucking get into every bit of media. You know, they just find a way to fucking find their way in front of your eyes. They find a way. I still have Trump derangement syndrome because I am still the world's worst fucking social justice warrior. Um, Alan says, "What isn't crazy from Trump's Twitter account?" Um, Not everything, as I remember it. I would say maybe 20% is not crazy, and it's just things that any president would tweet. You know, you can't be crazy all the time. That'd be way too much effort. People wouldn't be able to gauge the leaps of crazy if you didn't sometimes touch the ground. Kevin says loved InfoWars during the Ebola virus, claiming Obama trying to bring it in. was really good stuff. When Trump won, it ruined the show. Uh, People started holding him accountable, so the show became dull. Okay. Uh, and Jamie Demeter says Trump is a military hero. Let me tell you, just like my theory that coronavirus might suppress the in person voting that people do at the polls, let me tell you, I got this other theory, right? Trump, knowing this and knowing that he would rather face Bernie Sanders than Mike Bloomberg, made a whole press conference about the coronavirus when he didn't have to, right? And named Mike Pence the czar of coronavirus response, right? So why did he do that? Well, maybe he's trying to feed the fear of going to the polls during the primaries because he knows that favors Bernie Sanders because Bernie had the most early voters who have already mailed in their ballots. So of the people who uh, would vote for Mike Bloomberg, Mr. Johnny Come Lately, they're the people who saw Mike Bloomberg's ads after they would have had to have a chance to vote if they were a mail-in voter, right? And so the people who are left are, probably the people who would try to go on election day. So I think maybe him just amping up people's fears of the coronavirus might be his way of trying to affect the Democratic Party's primary. It's a theory, not a very good one. Hold on, let me give you a better one. It could be that uh, housing prices have been kept from crashing, and the stock market has been kept from crashing due to artificial influence by the uh, the Federal Reserve doing basically the equivalent of a bailout for the repo loan market by having a special fucking magic bank created that trades in like $1 trillion a fucking day overnight. Um, Maybe that has been keeping the economy from collapsing like it should have starting in like November. And they're just going to let all the stock market crash and all the housing market crash now and just blame it on the coronavirus when all along it was Trump's horrible leadership. But now he gets a global pandemic to blame it on, so he doesn't have to hide it anymore. So he can take back the repo loan Federal Reserve interventions, and he can take back all the other shit that he's done that is uh, easing what should be a fucking huge crash in the market starting way back in November. We all saw the signs like uh, the dividend yield inversion, the bond yield inversion, where the 30-year bonds were paying worse than the 6-month bonds. We all saw that. We were all like, oh man, that means that in a certain amount of time we're going to have a fucking huge recession, right? And then it didn't happen. Why? It's because fucking Trump's been printing money out of fucking thin air and keeping markets alive, like the fucking repo market, like the fucking housing crash in 2008, only with a bailout bridging through what should be a recession, right? And instead of getting caught, if 3% of everyone who gets infected with this coronavirus dies, it's going to create such a huge ripple across the whole fucking planet that he could just blame all of the markets crashing all at once on one global pandemic. Instead of, they should have been crashed the whole time because of his horrible fucking economic leadership. Just a theory. Let's go back to your comments. Um, let's see. Poseidon wants to know, why is Warren still running? She won't even win her in her home state. I think she's hoping for a brokered convention, and maybe she's hoping that Bernie Sanders and Michael Bloomberg will have a heart attack before the primary is done. There's a chance. Um, Kevin Smart says, think Trump cares more about stopping the market crash. I think he has been caring about stopping the market crash. He had been interfering with the markets since November. But the amount of his interference hasn't been caught on to by the general public. And it won't be, because when markets crash, because he stops helping them out, and stops uh, helping them make fake numbers and show fake growth that isn't there. When the markets crash, they're just going to blame everything on the coronavirus. It's killed a whole bunch of people. No, markets crashed because of lack of consumer confidence. And you know what could also affect that consumer confidence? Him getting out and making a fucking speech about how bad it's going to be, so bad that he had to make his vice president the czar of the response to it. You know, he's just fucking stoking the fire. He could have just said nothing, but instead he decides to go make every prepper go buy out every fucking mask of any kind in any Walgreens. Go to your local Walgreens and see if you can get any mask. Not even just like the HEPA filter ones. Any fucking mask. Go see if they still have any. They don't. The preppers have already gotten there before you. I actually have a family member who works in a Walgreens, and she said they had a shipment that came in, and it was gone within an hour. So, and also there's not just the preppers, there's the people who are buying them and then shipping them to China. That's a thing too. Let's see. Um, Kevin says interesting theories. Thank you, Kevin. Remember, they're just theories. I can't back up everything I say with more than just like I pulled it out of my ass, because I have a lot of doubt within me, but I don't have a lot of time right now to check up on all my theories. Um, Jamie Demeter wants to know if I've heard of the Fellowship of Martyrs. No, I have not, but I'm going to put it on my list of things to look up. I hope it has nothing to do with the Muslim religion, because that would suck. Uh, okay, I'll just read that later. Let's see. Trump is not smart enough to do a conspiracy, but yeah, he could use it. Ah, I think he's smart enough to jump on board somebody else's plan. And he has a bunch of people around him that can come up with a conspiracy. Kind of like W. Poseidon says, I like that guy Frodo with the ring and the evil beard dude who humped mud into super orcs. Alan says, China, number one with diseases next to Africa. Um, okay. Nadia says, malarkey. Everything's malarkey until, you know, people find the evidence of it. Um, I like to come up with really strange theories and then see if I can back it up with evidence. But some people call that, you know, in different terms, they call it science. You know, come up with a hypothesis, test it. You know, Kevin says he doesn't plan anything. In his opinion, it's all by the seat of the pants. I have seen evidence of planning for certain things, but I would say in the moment in his speeches, yeah, I don't even think he uses scripts. I think he just gets up there and just like has diarrhea of the mouth. You know, if it is scripted, somebody like knows the psychology of every SJW, and they're like, what would really piss him off today? Laura says, if the coronavirus kills 2%, the expectation, that will be 5.5 million dead Americans. At 3%, it's 9.8 million. Ah, hold on, Laura. Let me correct your math. Models predict that it probably at maximum will infect only a quarter of the US. So, if we're not talking the entire population of the US, only one quarter of it, then we're down to just, into the 1 or 2 million range. But still, 1 or 2 million people die of sickness in the next couple months. It's going to cause a lot of shit. So it's still a huge number, but about a quarter less than what you're putting out there. Pence doesn't even trust tobacco science. Uh, Alan says, blame it on him closing all the CDC. Um, I don't know what the CDC would have been doing as far as a response to this. I mean, with the cases that we have seen in the U.S. already, I think we're already fucked. I think it's probably all they're only counting confirmed cases, right? It's already spreading. It's already getting people. There's probably already people who have been assumed to have died from unknown causes or the flu who died of coronavirus. We just don't rec- recognize it yet, you know? Um, California only had like 200 kits to test for coronavirus, and they had like way more than that people who they knew had it. So, you know, I see a lot of mischaracterization of deaths happening in the first round. Kevin Smart made the same point as me, uh, that it's not 2% of all Americans, it's 2% of the people who catch it, which is actually only going to be a quarter at most, based on models that, are made by people who know that I've been watching because I've been going down this rabbit hole. And yeah, I need to spend my free time better than freaking myself the fuck out. Uh, Laura says the mask problem is that most of the masks are made in China, and China has a need for them. Yeah, they do. As well as mask manufacturers being understaffed because of sick workers. Ah, yeah. Um, I bet you if somebody just from home was making masks and said that they were just going to sew them together, and they're of a certain quality and they're made to just tie around your head, kind of like a bandana, you know, they might be able to make some money on like Etsy right now. Maybe Craigslist. If any of you needs a side hustle. Um, Alan says just wash your old masks every day after you using it. Um, yeah. Chris says the dudes who live in their mom's basement are going to beat this virus and take over the world. It's going to be idiocracy. I get it. Nadia says my theories are interesting. I'm just being a bonehead. You know what? I've got enough boneheads, Nadia. Look around. Hi, uh, Quintica, and I almost called you by your real name. Um, Sorry about that. Try to remember. I actually put everyone's phone number when I know another YouTuber's phone number. I actually use their screen name so that if anyone like picks up my phone in a restaurant and then like sneaks it and like tries to flip through it, they won't find people's real names. But yeah, I should have called you the other day and I didn't. Sorry about that. Uh, let's see. Laura's new numbers is 1,636,000, and that's about what I came up with. But that's worst case scenario, and best case, if it spreads and it doesn't mutate before it spreads, best case looks like we're still going to lose 1 million people. Like I can't think of anything scarier than this right now, you know, and even putting it into perspective, like with other pandemics that have happened in the past, I'm like, wow, this is really going to hit us. If you're my age, the chances that coronavirus kills you is about the same chance as you having a stroke, you know. But just like the flu, it's the old and the young, it's the babies and the elderly that get hardest hit. And I'm going to hell for it, but I did tell Misty that if it does kill 1 million people and the housing market crashes, then we're moving into a bigger house that probably will be freed up by somebody who died from the coronavirus. And I've been waiting and waiting for the housing market to fall, you know. And once it does, I'm gonna strike. I'm gonna get me my house, you know. And it looked like it was gonna take something like this to actually make that housing market crash and make that stock market crash. It sucks that it has to come to this, but um, I've been ready to pounce on the housing market when it crashes for a little while now, and got everything set up, ready to grab my VA loan and throw it on some property. Poseidon Kickwood wants to know if Biden will be able to remain coherent until Super Tuesday. Um, I actually thought he looked pretty good in the debate for South Carolina. Uh, I thought he was trying to come off like a gentleman, and I think he pulled it off. And pointing out that the rest of them were arguing like a big gaggle of geese, um, by looking like the one sane person up there. I think that went a long way, you know. Plus, he already had work that he had done in South Carolina, so I think reminding all the people in South Carolina of all his achievements and him being the vice president or Obama, I think that's going to work for him. At least once in South Carolina. Then on Super Tuesday, if he was coherent up till that day, what happens to him on Super Tuesday is probably going to knock him the fuck out. The results are not going to be good. Jamie Demeter says he wished Theranos worked because the CEO was a genius. And I think Jamie measures genius in bust size. Okay, so Ted says it's okay that I can say his name. Uh, Laura says that she has agoraphobia, so she hardly goes out. So she's very likely to survive. Well, good, good. It won't be all idiocracy, you know. But some of the other basement dwellers want to know where you live now because they're going to want to, you know, propose because there's not going to be enough women to go around and, zombie apocalypse. Um, Nadia says there was a Chinese person in my provincial paper who had a water jug on their head. They said it will help against the virus. Jamie says, hey, agent, can I call you? If you have been calling and your number came up as scam likely, then I'm not going to answer. But if you text first and you explain that I am Jamie Demeter and I'm going to call you today, then you'll have a better chance of me answering. I do get like random calls that I don't know who it's from, especially in politics season. So I've had like three of them today. Laura says that she was formerly known as Cliff Jumper. There are some of those Transformers that I never really figured out if they were dudes or chicks, like Bumblebee and Cliffhanger. Anyways, um, let's see. Alan says the way things are going for me, I will just welcome it. Alan, you need to talk to somebody, Alan. Ted says that the coronavirus is acting like a bioweapon, and I would say with its spread, um, it definitely seems like it's getting around, doesn't it? Imagine all those people ordering cheap shit on the Wish app are all getting packages from China where people might have coughed into the package, and then the virus can live for like a couple days, and so then it gets to America through like the cheap ass shit you bought on Wish. That's some shit. Just a theory. Just a theory. Hi, Draken. Um, everybody, make sure that you subscribe to Draken and follow him. He's going through a very hard night tonight. Um, there's been a lot of grief lately, and there's going to be a lot of grief to come. But his is personal tonight, so you know, be a good friend to each other. Now Laura says that she's transgendered. You know who else kind of like uh, I didn't know which way it was going? Starscream. In the cartoon Starscream, the voice was kind of anti-tonal, you know. I just saw a video today of Lady Gaga singing a song called Stupid Love. I want your stupid love. Jamie says, I don't have your number. How do I get it? Oh, that's got to be like the worst pickup line I've heard all week. You know, you have no game. You have tiny pee pee. When the public is scared, they re-elect incumbent presidents. That's true. That is true. Um, there's that feeling of don't change horses in midstream. I get that. I get what you're saying. But the coronavirus, if it lasted for months and months, could actually swing the presidential election and give us Trump again. It's true. Only the people that are more likely to die are more likely to vote for a conservative candidate. And the people who are in the age brackets that are more likely to live are Bernie supporters. So, you know, Draken says Korean death cult seems to have spread it on purpose. Um, a germ theory. That's pretty good. Heart failure, T1D, some nerve damage from a disc, and I lost my job in the summer. Maybe I will disability, maybe not. I don't know. Sorry to hear that, Alan. Um, ah, so Laura, you already knew about how Starscream came off as being kind of like a gender bender, you know? But yeah, um, just get yourself a Wizinator and like answer the door with it, and you'll be okay. Jamie says, if people from the net call you, how do they did they get your number? Some of them came to YouTuber meetups where I was there, and when I met them in person, we shared numbers. Um, let's see. Some of them just called me out of the blue, and I don't know how they got my number. And they just left messages, and I ended up returning their call. Some of them uh, signed up for my Patreon, and in order to uh, coordinate what prizes they would get when I was sending out random shit, I had to call people. Um, what else? And also, uh, sometimes there are like little guest books that you like put your name down and your number so that like the organization can get your name and number. And I've gone to like meetup groups and like YouTuber meetups where that was out there and I signed and then like people just like took a picture and like called everyone just to say hello. People got my number a lot of different ways, you know. Bill loves me. Bill calls all the time. I never give Bill my number. Bill loves me. Oh, and so does Michael Bloomberg. I don't know how he got my fucking address. Flapjack Batter says you can have my number. You guys know that Philip DeFranco sometimes wears a T-shirt. Like right here, there's the phone number you can call, and like sometimes he fucking answers. It's more for like getting people to leave messages, but sometimes he wears a T-shirt with one of his phone numbers. Oh, and Aldous Valor in one of his old videos put his address and phone number like right on the bottom, just like captioned it. And what is his real fucking phone number? I don't think it still is, but you know, back in the day. Plus, people call me on Facebook. People call me on Skype. People call me through uh, Discord, and they get on my Discord server by becoming one of my Patreon patrons, which then a bot will just take them over to my Discord server, and then they call me that way. Um, yeah, there's many different ways to get people's number, and nowadays you don't even need a phone number anymore. You know, you just find one of the social media things you can call people through. Anyways, I've been on for way longer than I thought it would take to just show you guys all the mail that Mike Bloomberg has sent me, but apparently there was that goddamn much of it. So uh, I don't want to have people tomorrow like going, "Why the fuck was your show so long?" Um, so I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. I'm still working on making the video where Nadia says I'm blooming with mail. I'm still working on making the video where I'm going to show you guys the female wand for your analysis. It's a fucking awesome product. Let me tell you, you guys are going to be like impressed. So if I can make that video, I will. If not, you guys will get another live stream from me. But take care. See you tomorrow.